President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi directed to complete all buildings in Olympic Village at the new administrative capital in accordance with international modern standards. This came during the President's meeting with Major General Amir Saeed Ahmed, the Presidential Advisor for Urban Planning, and Major General Ihab al-Far, the head of the Armed Forces Engineering Authority, as well as General Ashraf al-Arabi, the head of the Advisory Office of Engineering Authority. Presidential spokesman Bassem Radi said the meeting addressed a follow-up to the construction and engineering position of number of republic-wide projects by the Armed Forces Engineering Authority around the country. The meeting tackled the executive position of a number of establishments in the new administrative capital. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi paid tribute for Egyptian farmers on the Egyptian Farmers' Day, in which they gained independence, dignity, and freedom. The President reaffirmed keenness to support Egyptian farmers and to provide all elements of a dignified life. President el-Sisi hailed Egyptian farmers' achievements in all areas. And Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli described the national project to develop rural areas under President Sisi's initiative as a huge project that represents all goals of the UN Development Goals 2030. During his meeting with UN Under-Secretary Khaled Abou Zar, Premier Madbouli noted the project aims at improving the lives of almost half the population. He called on the UNF officials to follow up on the implementation of this unprecedented project. Madbouli said the government worked hard during the corona pandemic to release a balance between protecting citizens' health and maintaining economic growth rates. The Prime Minister expressed his keenness to host the UN's 27th Conference on Climate Change. Arab foreign ministers concluded in Cairo the 156th ordinary session under the chairmanship of Kuwait, during which they discussed a number of files, on top of which was the Palestinian cause, as well as the Iranian and Turkish interference in the Arab affairs.
Arab foreign ministers wrapped up their 156th ordinary session at the Arab League headquarters in Cairo, which was held under the chairmanship of Kuwait on Thursday. The ministers probed a number of issues, including the Palestinian cause, as well as Iranian and Turkish interference in the Arab affairs. Addressing a press conference after the session, Kuwaiti foreign minister and the chairman of the current session, Sheikh Ahmed Nasser al-Subah, said that the ministers had discussed the strategic frameworks of the Arab-African ties. For his part, Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Abul Ghait said there is a deficit in budget of the United Nations to fund the Palestinians to lighten their sufferings. Abul Ghait also said that the Palestinian side does not expect things to go as expected, adding that the group of North Africa sent a message over developments in the region. He stressed that dialogue and cooperation should prevail.
On the sidelines of the meeting, Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry met with his Jordanian counterpart Ayman al-Safadi, during which they discussed means of boosting the bilateral relations as well as coordination stances on regional issues of mutual concern. At a consultation meeting between Shoukry and Jordanian al-Safadi and Riyad al-Malki at the Foreign Minister's Tahrir Palace, the top diplomat underscored Egypt's constant stance in supporting the Palestinian cause and legitimate rights of the Palestinian people. He stressed that concerned region and international parties should carry out their roles in providing the atmosphere that helps to push the peace process. For their part, both Jordanian and Palestinian ministers expressed their appreciation for Egyptian initiative of Gaza reconstruction and offering support to the Palestinian territories. The Quartet Arab Ministerial Committee on Iran held a meeting in Cairo on Thursday, headed by Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister Faisal Abdullah bin Farhan. The meeting probed the latest developments in the Iranian file and means of facing Tehran's intervention in Arab countries' internal affairs. The committee has submitted its report on the outcome of its meetings to the 156th session of the Arab League Foreign ministries included in its membership Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Bahrain, in addition to the Arab League chief. Egypt's first International Cooperation Forum wrapped up its activities in Cairo on Thursday under the auspices of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and Ministry of International Cooperation. The conference tackled the role of multilateralism and international cooperation, achieving sustainable development goals during coronavirus pandemic. Nile TV's Minna Tsui has the details.
Under the auspices of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, the first edition of the Egypt International Cooperation Forum was launched in the presence of Egyptian and African ministers, development partners, businessmen, and economists.
Yeah, actually we are very much delighted to see the first version of the International Cooperation Forum that is organized by Egypt today, because this is actually really timely, and we need actually now to put actually the efforts together so that we can really encounter all the challenges that is facing the member countries during the pandemic. So this timely forum is actually going to really discuss all the issues that is facing, of course, the member countries, and it will involve as well some suggestions and solutions of how to enhance cooperation among all partners, whether governments, private sector, international organizations, MDBs. So it is very timely and very important, really, for all of us to understand that without really having partnership, we will not be able to make a big difference actually in solving these issues.
A gathering was held of national, regional, and international policymakers, development partners, financial private sector companies, civil society organizations, and think tanks who embarked on an essential journey to tackle the role of multilateralism and international cooperation to engage for impact and realize the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda.
Well, actually, in Africa, and especially in my country, in Nigeria, we have a very large infrastructure deficit. We need to work, we don't have any option, we have to work with the private sector to be able to unlock financing that sits within the private sector, work in partnership with government to enable us to build out infrastructure, to enable us to roll out vaccine manufacturing and several other things that we require to industrialize our country. We're doing that in our country by liberalizing our fiscal regimes to make it more attractive for businesses to operate, by also unlocking the challenges that the businesses have, reducing bureaucracy, enhancing the infrastructure that businesses need, especially power, to be able to support the businesses to grow in Nigeria.
A press conference took place with Her Excellency Dr. Rania Al-Mashot, the Minister of International Cooperation, discussing the importance of the forum and the crucial topics it tackles and the role of multilateralism and international cooperation in achieving sustainable development goals.
So the main objective of of the forum over the next 2 days is to first of all bring in multilateral parties that are looking to support African countries, through COVID recovery. But it's also to bring in, government and private sector from other countries so that there can be a sharing of knowledge and experience on how to really recover, through this COVID period. Now, recovering, we want to build back better but more boldly. And so it also means, doing that really with a greening perspective, okay? And the greening perspective is not nice to have. It's actually very important in terms of risk mitigation. It's very important in terms of optimizing the limited capital that public sector has. Because, for example, we have floods, across Africa. So we have to build back our roads and bridges in anticipation of those floods and not rather wait for them to be decimated by those floods. There is a commitment by the developed world, through agencies like the Green Climate Fund, to provide concessionary money that we can blend with, commercial money to invest in all of these greener infrastructure projects. And so we do hope that, this forum is just one of the important ways of convening us while we're in COVID, to create an urgency, to create the right partnerships, to create the right sharing of knowledge, so that collectively Africa emerges from this COVID pandemic stronger.
Egypt International Cooperation Forum is a two-day forum that is comprised of various discussions delving into the importance of collaboration for an inclusive and green future. Egypt International Cooperation Forum is a two-day forum that tackles discussions globally and locally to establish the green economy, sustainable development recovery during the COVID-19 pandemic. Minna Dessouki, Nile TV International.